Good morning. It's really great to see everyone. Well, it's a beautiful day outside. I've already seen a few birds and a jackrabbit. The sun is out, but I'm pleased you decided to come inside for a bit and be part of your circle. Whether it's your first time here, or you're an old hand, or if you're a drop-in casually type, this is your place, and today this is our circle together. Southminster Steinhauer strives to live out its commitment to being a safer, inclusive space for everybody. All sizes and bodies, all ages, all cultures and backgrounds, all genders and sexualities, all religions and spiritualities, or none, all people are welcome here with their whole selves. That means you. So again, good morning and a very gentle and warm welcome. We'll take some time now from our busyness of getting here and come to be here by singing ourselves into this space.
It's in that spirit that we acknowledge the very place we sit, the land that we occupy on which Southminster Steinhauer United Church sits. For thousands of years, for generations, it's been the traditional land of the Cree, the Blackfoot, the Nakota Sioux, the Dene Ta, and many, many others. Today, this is a place that is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to live and to work, to make our home in and around this land. And so our words don't become just words. Our prayer is that they symbolize our actions and our intentions to live in hope of strong relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in this place. And so we honor those relationships. And this morning, more than that, we honor this land also in a way that honors the relationship we have to this earth. To live in kindness and gentleness and partnership with nature, with Earth's creatures, with Earth's waters. May we honor all that is before us as a gift and intention to those who will come after us. And we honor this land in all its ways with a song.
Each day, light comes gently into our world. And each night, light leaves gently from our world as it turns and we turn to and from this day star that makes our life possible. Each time we gather, we light this good and gentle light as a reminder of the light of light that is within each of us, as a reminder of all the places we seek and find light with one another. Light in the eyes of Earth's creatures, light in the night sky, light in the bright light of sun, light in the wisdom of so many enduring traditions, light in our experience. We gather this day, as always, to celebrate the light that is within us and to seek light wherever we find it.
Today I want to share with you this very, very short little book. I almost called it a story, but it's not really a story, it's a book. And to start this book, we have to have a little brainstorming session. We have to come up with some answers to this question. Please think of all the things that you might do on a daily basis, just ordinary things that you do with your hands. Go. The dishes. Yes, just yell them out.
Play the piano.
Oh, that's a good one. Piano. You crochet, you brush your teeth.
Open the fridge.
Good. Yes, opening, closing. Yeah, holding hands, cooking, all these things. Oh, and so many more. We could do this forever. It's important that we think about our hands as the things that do so much of our intentions. I've met people who do these things with no hands. I've met people that do these things with their feet. I've met people who do these things with their chin and their neck. But it doesn't matter how we do it. What we do with our body acts out the things we think and the things we want to do. There's a weird little book called I Call My Hand Gentle, and it's by Amanda Hahn. There's no D on it. Hahn with an H-A-A-N. The pictures that I'm showing on the screen are by Marina Segona. So, this is my hand. I think it's very special. It can pick, it can hug, it can throw, it can hold, it can protect. Where did it can protect go? Oh, that one. What do I know about my hand? It can't do things without me. It does what I want it to do. When I want to play, it can catch and build and hide. When I want to work, it can hammer, write, and count. All of these things I choose. So I choose not to steal and push and hurt and grab or break. I like to pet, cuddle, tickle, and share with my hands. So I'll call my hand gentle. That's a message for us, a message of wisdom, that we choose how we interact with our world, even if it's just ordinary things like opening and closing and touching and hugging. We do so gently. We do so because we choose to. So let's all help to make our world more kind, more gentle, with how we use our arms and our hands and our feet and our bodies.
All right. I have a reading for you by Andriana E. Lefton. She's an American author and educator and works for the U.S. Baha'i Office of Public Affairs. And the reading is called Letters of the Living Number 5 on Gentleness, Wrestling with a Wounded Angel. So it goes in part like this. The fruit of the Spirit. They say, learn the beauty of scabs and thick skins. Learn to give as good as you get. Learn to speak loudly whether you are carrying a stick or not. They are the voices of conventional wisdom. And they do speak loudly, advising us to sell yourself, push yourself forward, don't take guff, use your elbows. The world's a harsh place, kid. Yes, the world is indeed a harsh place. Part of my growing up years were spent in Israel, a splintered land that embedded itself in my soul. Those years were like a palmful of broken glass, sparkling, jagged, light-filled, and potentially lethal. There were times when I felt those shards surround my whole body, as if I was walking in an envelope of bright danger. At any moment, if I was incautious, I could lose my life. Any of us could. So each of us, in our own way, developed an ability to slip from this knife's edge reality into the daily flow of school, running errands, meeting friends. It was an odd, dreamlike existence. Normal, and yet not. Perhaps because of the existential anxiety floating through the air, each person became their own universe. There was no need for social pleasantries. No one waited in line or moved aside for you on the sidewalk. We were invincible. We were self-sufficient. We were razor sharp and could deal with any shrapnel flying our way. Except that I couldn't. I don't think any of us could really, not Israelis, Palestinians, Arab Israelis, pilgrims, expats, or tourists. But this early experience of living in a society that is abrasive, almost by necessity, made me acutely aware of abrasion of all kinds. I developed a heightened sensitivity to harshness and instinctively withdrew from environments that reminded me of the death sparkle in Israel's air. I remember walking into an American public high school on my return to the States. My abrasion radar went wild. The low institutional brick building was a warren of sharp objects, high energy particles called teenagers, zooming through the halls and classrooms. We churned through 8 classes a day, with little meaningful connection between classmates and teachers. I would come home feeling tired, cross, and convinced there was a better way to learn. It's not just schools that often lack gentleness. Workplaces can rub us raw too, as can public transit, shopping malls, restaurants, and daycare. The levels of noise, advertising, and stressed out people dealing with other stressed out people can leave us feeling bombarded and drained. Creating more spaces of refuge, like public parks, is one option, but another option is to integrate gentleness into all our spaces and daily interactions. It could be something as small as turning down the music in cafes, or as radical as a mother making the commitment to care for herself with as much tenderness as she does her family. What is essential is reorienting our minds and relationships towards a quiet that has little to do with physical noise. Rather, it is the quiet of being attentive to ourselves and others. In these moments, our energy is less frenetic. Our voices drop a register and no longer seem on the verge of snapping. Gentleness is not a showy virtue. It's not something you can put on a resume. American society, in contrast, praises daring, open-mindedness, and self-confidence. These traits fit a mythology of pioneers and entrepreneurs. At the same time, we're also beginning to explore the value of vulnerability, which goes hand in hand with the capacity to be expansive and courageous. In this reflection of a contemporary writer, may we find wisdom for our living.
Back many centuries ago, the leadership of the first Jewish Christian communities wrote letters to their spiritual communities that were scattered in various regions around the Roman Empire. From 3 of those letters written in the middle of the first century, we have these instructions given to these communities about how to live this new spiritual path that they were embarking on. From the letters to the Ephesians, Philippians, and Galatians. So then, putting away falsehood, let all of us speak the truth to our neighbors, for we are members of one another. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Thieves must give up stealing. Rather, let them labor and work honestly with their own hands so as to have something to share with the needy. Let no evil talk come out of your mouths, but only what is useful for building up, as there is need, so that your words may give grace to those who hear them. Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The fruit of the Spirit are these: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things. In these first century letters written to ancient Jewish Christian communities, may we find wisdom for our living.
After my father died last year, one of the most common things that people said to us in expressing their sympathy was to say, "He was such a gentleman and a gentleman." I heard that tribute over and over again from family, from friends, from his neighbors, from his former staff and co-workers, from waitresses at restaurants that he went to, from medical staff who cared for him near the end of his life. I heard it from people who had known my dad his entire life and from people who had known him only a few weeks. And I've thought a lot this year about what it is about his life that made gentleness one of the first things people remembered and remarked about him. When people said he was a gentleman, I don't think they were just speaking about his manners, that he was someone you remembered for holding a door open to you, although that was his practice. But I wonder if he was remembered for his gentleness because he was someone who lived by that old adage. You know it. If you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. And in my experience of him, his words were measured and his tone, like his temperament, was soft and even. And although my dad and I saw many social and political issues very differently, and I suspect we canceled each other's votes on more than one occasion, he's been a great mentor in my life. He modeled gentle speech, and I suspect he never had to regret words he spoke, or the way that words came out of that little bit of muscle that we hold between our teeth. And as I've thought about that epitaph of gentleness against the foreground of a very abrasive, one-click world we're currently living in, I wonder if gentleness is a virtue that is in danger of extinction. A quality that we once regarded as a hallmark of our human civility has somehow been reframed as a sign of weakness. And instead of gentleness being identified with strength, strength has forged this unholy alliance with aggression. Words that wound or degrade or belittle make headlines. Soldiers sniping protesters are not only defended, but decorated. And words posted on social media fly from our fingers to slash someone whose eyes we'll never have to meet. Like missiles fired from heights guided by technology, allowing us never to see the lives and the homes and the communities and the natural areas and the animals and the families we destroy. But this is not to say that aggression is new. It's always been with us. But somehow our aspirations as a species have been undermined and distorted. In this week, when some humans have been derogatorily called animals, even as we speak out against that kind of dehumanization, we might just consider that sometimes those in the animal kingdom have succeeded where we have failed. Consider this. Sometimes animals have exercised restraint and acted against instinct in ways that we sometimes fail to do as human beings. We were recently in Sydney, British Columbia, looking at an eagle's nest that had brought the curiosity of so many to a small cul-de-sac about this time last year. Because a pair of eagles began to raise a hawk in their nest as though it were one of their own. For months, that hawk, named Spunky, was fed and parented by eagles whose every instinct and whose entire socialization would have taught them to kill and eat it. But that hawk was nurtured alongside their own until it was old enough to leave the nest and to discover its identity as a hawk. Now, how it fared in the world as a hawk, thinking of itself as an eagle, is the untold story. But I wonder if some of our animal kin could teach us to become a better species. How to subdue some of our instinct for aggression and to learn a kind of gentleness that would raise us to a higher humanity. You'll notice in those qualities that Chris read for us a few moments ago, that list of qualities that celebrated as fruitful and worthy of seeding in fledgling Christian communities that were growing out of first century Judaism, that the writer to one of those young spiritual communities counseled them to exercise gentleness and self-restraint. Maybe pairing those two qualities together in a way that could suggest they're mutually symbiotic. They're like cedars and hemlock. They need each other to root and flourish. That gentleness and self-restraint are dependent on one another and that they grow best together. Because where there is no impulse control, there will be very little gentleness. And where there is no restraint, there will often be raw instinct that might not be us at our finest. Self-restraint means we can be angry without harming another. We can be truthful without destroying another. We can use the great power of words to build up rather than to tear down. Gentleness is not about walking softly and carrying a big stick. Gentleness is about having a strong back and a soft front. It takes a strong back to do the heavy lifting of holding the kind of space with each other that would allow us to know one another as individuals who each carry a story. We're not just containers carting around our opinions. A strong back for holding a space for respect. And even the possibility that if we can bear the weight of holding the door open, understanding might come, or even empathy might intrude and understanding might not even matter anymore. Gentleness requires a soft front, a tender heart, an unarmed heart that can feel with and for another. And we've all seen it. We have seen tenderness disarm maliciousness in guarded conversations. We've seen tenderness lead someone to take their armor off and human connection be restored. Mark Nepo, an American poet and writer, tells about farmers grappling with the issue of their chickens pecking at each other. Some of them thought the answer was to clip the beaks so they wouldn't hurt each other so much. And this only made it more difficult for the chickens to eat, and so they became more aggressive with each other because they had to compete for food. Others thought it was just the nature of chickens. They're just loners. They can't mingle without being nasty. Others thought it was the hierarchy of dominance. You gotta peck or be pecked. But ultimately, they learned that it was the lack of light that prompted the pecking. That's a condition that can be changed, that can be altered, and that will change behavior. And maybe the same thing is true of our species. It isn't the free range of our thinking, nor the depth of our feeling. It isn't primarily about competition for scarce resources, nor is it inherent in our nature that we hurt each other with our words and our actions. But just like the chickens, sometimes we don't get enough light. Sometimes we don't hold one another fully in that light. To use the image our Indigenous brothers and sisters have given us, it's about seeing one another with soft eyes. Soft eyes as though they were opening to a gentle light. As we heard in the story of our hands harming each other's a choice. Using our words as a weapon is a choice. Aggression is a choice. We've all known the cold, hard stare, but a soft gaze lets in the light of a wide horizon that helps us see beyond the particular and lets our focus be more open in ways that let in the light gently, where we can weigh our words and measure our response and perhaps plant seeds of gentleness and self-restraint. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-restraint. Why is there no law against these things? Don't these 9 virtues form the law of ethical relations itself? In a world that acts like a body at war with itself, or where we're bracing for new and unexpected blows every day, analysis and retaliation isn't enough. We have to plant the seeds of a better way. And gentleness, it's a hardy seed. It can grow in the most adverse conditions. It can transform a conversation, a transaction, a relationship, an interaction, a situation. It can change the world, one encounter at a time. Gentleness needs only our soft eyes and our willing heart. The sight that waits beneath all seeing, so we can know the compassion that waits beneath all feeling and enter the sense of oneness that waits beneath all thinking.
Into a day and into a week that we don't know what it may hold for us, but we know there might be some sharp edges. May we go into that with a spirit of gentleness, with strong backs and soft hearts and eyes and fronts. And may we take this light with us wherever we go.